you know, the sacking of these mayors comes on a day where President Cyril Ramaphosa is addressing the municipalities meeting in Durban, calling for a cleanup of local governments. Is there a thread at all that you see running between part of what is happening and perhaps what may be his agenda going forward?
Kathy, look, we are entering an era of seduction and daggers, meaning that we as the public here, we are being seduced to think that the ANC is doing something honorable. But in fact, I think it is the issue of convenience, and there are those sacrificial lambs who are going to be sacrificed to seduce us as the voters. Let me give you a very simple thing or some few examples. In the past, you remember that there was a report by the public protector, Thuli Madonsela, and that report speak volume about the conduct of Bheki Cele. And Bheki Cele is back in the cabinet. And to another person, there was also the issue of Minister Jeff Radebe when it comes to the apology that he made. And he's still with the cabinet. And we have Batabile Dlamini, who have failed or have lost a number of court cases, but he's still with the cabinet. And we have also in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, Mike Mabuyakulu, who is descending and ascending the court staircases because he's trying to fight for his political life regarding the 28 million jazz festival that never happened. And also he's still part of the provincial PEC, and he is the deputy chairperson. And we have I can count number of people who are implicated in unwarranted and in a very undesirable behaviors that are still there in the ANC. And so those mayors, your Ketani Mahlangu, your Brian Hlongwa, and Pule Mabi, I think to a certain extent, the government or the ANC is trying to seduce us, but the fact of the matter that you have to understand is that there is also an elephant, I'm not sure, two elephants in the rooms. One is that of DD, who is alleged to be involved in a number of horrible, terrifying accidents in Mpumalanga. Those are allegations. And also, recently, you know that the president has been speaking with a forked tongue when it comes to the issue of Bosasa, and it's not quite clear, really, if those allegations of donation of that 500,000, did he receive it or not? And also, we have Vincent Smith, as well as Tabang Makwetla, as beneficiaries of some kind of patronage from Bosasa. And so I think the ANC is in deep trouble. And so when they try to cleanse themselves, trust me, they will be bringing a number of other people to the sinkhole. And so let's wait and see as the public to see how this cleansing, the fairness of this cleansing, and how long is it going to take?
Xolani, you raise, of course, very important issues. In the context of VBS and the decision that has been taken, I think, collectively to then get rid of those mayors across the provinces who were involved in that scandal, why do you think they particularly went for a cleanup that is VBS related or associated? And in terms of the damage, how much damage would you say the party then had incurred as a result of their officials being implicated?
Look, I think the issue of VBS to a certain extent should not be viewed in isolation from the totality of the rot that is happening in the ANC. Because once you do that, you perpetrate the kind of an analysis that try to exclude and include other people. And so in this case, the issue of VPS, as I've said initially, those mayors, I think they are just sacrificial lamb who got no strong constituency that will back them. Whereas the others who have serious constituency, they are being left untouched, and they are still part of the machinery of the ANC.
But Xolani, obviously it can't be as simplistic as them being sacrificial lambs, in that it almost completely removes their agency in terms of the kind of decisions that they would have had to be party to in making the decisions that they had over those investments. And, you know, in terms of accountability, then it also somewhat shifts the responsibility from them being individually held accountable for their role. And of course, not bearing that there may have been broader ties to what they were doing, and perhaps even broader links to those who may have benefited out of those monies.
Look, Kathy, I don't feel sympathetic at all for those looters of VBS. I think they must suffer the consequences of their evilness. But what I'm trying to say is, if the evilness is, you find it across the ANC, let those who are benefiting out of their evil doings, they must suffer the same consequences. It must not be a selective. And so even the president, as I've said, if he has benefited unduly to the 500,000 from what we call it Bosasa, if Tabang Makwetla benefited unduly as well, and Vincent Smith, themselves as well, they must fall on their own deeds. And so it must not be exclusive. Rot, corruption is corruption, must not have color, and it must not have eyes. It must be treated fairly and equally, and everyone who has participated must suffer the consequences equally.
Does this cleanup then, in your perspective, do anything for the ANC in terms of perhaps changing perception of people towards it, the outlook that people have about the party? Or do you think that many will keep the critical lens which you have on tonight and continue to question why others who have, you know, been accused of corruption over years are still kept within the party?
Look, as I've said, we are entering the time of convenience, the time of seduction. The ANC is seducing us by trying to come up with a narrative that says, look, we are cleansing ourselves. But we as society, we can't be fooled, because we have a list of perpetrators of corruption in our society that are known, who are still serving in the highest offices of the ANC, but who seems to be untouchable, as I've mentioned some of them. And so I think for ANC to be seen doing something proper, it must do it in an immaculate and in an honest way. Because what they are doing, trust me, Kathy, after the elections, we might see another faction that will emerge out of this. And that will mean that the ANC will be a continuous organization of faction. And so to arrest that, let the Integrity Committee summon everyone who is seen or has been alleged to be involved in such kind of corrupt behavior to be prosecuted or to be asked to step aside, just like the VPS guys, just like Pule Mabe, just like Qedani, just like Brian Hlongwe. Because it seems now allegations in the ANC, it means that someone is guilty. And so it's no longer about proven until guilty. It's about once you are being alleged, and so we are being guilty. And so let's see all those who are alleged to be corrupt and to, like Geoff in Johannesburg, to step aside and face the consequences of the allegation that they are being associated with.
All right, let's leave it there for tonight. That's all we have time for. Political analyst Xolani Dube from the Shubera Institute for Research and Development.